I have a camera hidden right here. It's Henry Kissinger bent over in a woman's dress, sticking his fingers in his ass.
It would be fair to say that Joe Rogan's Experience podcast never failed to amaze us in the most amazing and insane ways. Joe Rogan invited Alex Jones, who is an American far-right radio show host and conspiracy theorist, to his podcast. That being said, we know that there were going to be a lot of conspiracy theories and insane stuff said in the podcast. The podcast was fun and intriguing to watch. Previously, Rogan had invited Alex Jones on his show back in 2017. He said some insane stuff back then too. Even Spotify had banned Jones from their platform due to his conspiracy theories against the United States government. And many major social media platforms have banned him too. As he joined Joe Rogan's Experience podcast in 2020, people objected to it. Spotify's CEO jumped in to defend and told that the ban didn't apply to guests, and Alex Jones was a guest on Joe Rogan's Experience podcast. He also said, Spotify has always been a place for creative expressions. It's important to have diverse voices and points of view on our platform. Moving on, let's discuss 10 times Alex Jones said insane stuff on Joe Rogan's Experience podcast.
Calculators were great. No one knows how to do math now. Look how phones are great. No one knows their numbers anymore. All the statistics show that the science and technology is making us dumb.
Number 10, Rockefeller Foundation document.
Let me show you what I came here with in my notes. I have right here in my notes.
Throughout the podcast, Rogan kept on challenging Alex on several ideas that he had. When he asked about the Rockefeller Foundation document from 2010, Jones answered that it's Operation Lockstep, and it says a global police state will be brought in from a pandemic, and there will be worldwide martial law. It actually says it in the document. But guess what? It doesn't actually say that. It doesn't talk about anything that Jones claims it does. He distorted the facts and lied about the legitimate authorities. Number 9, Sacha Baron Cohen called for Alex's arrest.
I've been a big fan of Sacha Baron Cohen until I learned he spoke at the ADL last year and called for my arrest.
Okay, so this is new and different. Jones claimed at an Anti-Defamation League event that happened in 2019, Sacha Baron Cohen called for his arrest along with Mark Zuckerberg for free speech. However, when we listen to Sacha Cohen's speech, he never said such a thing. He did talk about how YouTube recommends videos by conspiracist Alex Jones because that's what interests the public. However, he talked nothing about arresting anyone.
Why YouTube recommended videos by the conspiracist Alex Jones billions of times.
Alex made it up on his own and shared it with the public on such a big platform, probably to defame Cohen. Who knows why he did that? Number 8, Joe Biden's daughter's diary.
Left her diary in a house that she had rented. And the diary talks about all the same stuff and everything.
Alex Jones loves to talk about politics, and one way or the other, he manages to say something that would make politicians and the government really angry. This time, he said that Joe Biden's daughter verifies that the New York Post coverage of suspected Hunter Biden emails. Here, Jones is talking about a series of stories on the far-right website, nationalfile.com, which claims that the website had obtained a diary that belongs to Ashley Biden, who is Joe Biden's daughter. The diary makes outlandish claims about the Democratic presidential candidate, and more surprisingly, it appeared only a few days before the elections were going to be held. It is clear that the diary's legitimacy wasn't confirmed by anyone, and even Rogan didn't respond to Jones's claims. Number 7, Trump doesn't have Russia connections.
Trump doesn't have those connections. Trump doesn't have those outside connections. You can't buy him. He doesn't have lobbyists.
Talking about politics again, Alex Jones claimed that Trump doesn't have Russia connections and has expelled lobbyists from his administration. He repeatedly tried to make this point, but Rogan is a man who knows how to keep himself out of the dirt, or he didn't challenge Jones's claims. However, I would like to highlight that Trump had a fair connection with Russia. During his tenure, he had hundreds of lobbyists in the administration. Also, he had numerous business deals with Russia, and his own properties have taken millions of dollars from Russian oligarchs. So we can say that it was a very insane claim that was made by Jones. Number 6, Bill Gates said it is okay for people to die.
He went on CBS News and they go, 80% of those taking your vaccine trial are getting very sick. Some are dying. He's like, well, that's just how it is. You can pull these clips up.
What?
With the coronavirus pandemic on its peak, the scientists are working toward making a vaccine that would end the world's suffering. A lot of prominent laboratories are working toward this one goal, to develop a coronavirus vaccine. Alex Jones claimed that in an interview with CBS News, Bill Gates said it was okay with 80% of people dying in COVID-19 vaccine trials. Rogan literally laughed when Jones said this. He didn't really respond to it. It is important to mention that Bill Gates didn't say anything like this, and the vaccines he is supporting are not causing deaths. This will only save the world from further destruction.
Why does everybody hate Bill Gates? What is going on?
Because he's so sexy.
Number 5. Wearing masks won't protect people.
It's a good idea to encourage people to wear masks if they're going into large gatherings.
A lot of
indoors.
studies show that it doesn't even protect you.
Alex Jones became a doctor on his own and said that a lot of studies show that wearing masks won't protect people in large groups from getting the coronavirus. However, it is to be noted that the CDC had recommended people to wear masks anywhere they will be around other people. Discouraging people to wear masks on such a great platform wasn't a smart move for Jones's side, and he probably shouldn't have said it in the middle of a deadly pandemic. People, wear masks at all times when you are near people. Masks help keep you safe from acquiring the virus. Number 4. Democrats are in the pockets of lobbyists.
They want to kill the U.S. economy. China's been open for 6 months. They admit it's leaked out that they're doing this to kill the U.S. economy.
Alex Jones is probably not a big supporter of the United States government, and he keeps on bashing them every chance he gets. In a podcast with Joe Rogan, Alex Jones talked about how the Democrats are in the pocket of lobbyists, whereas Trump was not. Rogan was quick to respond when he literally opened the internet and showed web links in real time that showed that this isn't quite so clear. With AT&T, as it admits to pay Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen a fee to facilitate its own positioning with Trump and Trump's administration, Alex Jones continued to respond by saying how Democrats were trying to crush the economy to make Trump look bad. Well, throughout the podcast, he attacked Biden, especially for Hunter Joe Biden, and destroying the American economy. It became apparent that Jones was supporting Trump all along, but defaming another person wasn't a smart move. Number 3. Jones denies climate change science.
We are terraforming the planet back to an earlier, healthier state by taking ancient carbon that was under the ground and putting it back into the atmosphere.
On top of everything, Alex Jones had already said this in the 3-hour-long podcast. He made another claim that left everybody wondering whether he was even invited to the podcast since he had been banned from major social media platforms. So actually, Alex Jones denied the climate change science, which means he doesn't believe that the climate could change, getting worse or better. This became another insane moment with Jones at the Joe Rogan's Experience podcast. Number 2, Chinese President Xi Jinping owns Hollywood.
It literally spends hundreds of billions of dollars buying us off. It owns Hollywood. It owns a lot of the big telecoms. It owns the majority of our debt.
A very bold claim was made by Alex Jones when he said that the president of China, Xi Jinping, owns Hollywood and expressed his love for Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. We don't deny that a lot of American studios have capitulated to the Chinese demands of censorship, but it is true to say that Xi, the president of China, doesn't run or own them. Also, there are no instances to be found where he praised Stalin or Hitler. Number 1, Jones wants to retire.
The last thing I want to say is this. I'd like to retire the next year.
After years of career and building theories, Alex Jones revealed in the Joe Rogan's Experience podcast that he wants to retire in 2021. He said, "I'm dying, so I can't do this much longer. I'd like to finish up my work, clean up mistakes. I made a lot of other stuff because I'm going to die of a heart attack going crazy. I'm totally stressed out, Joe."
I'm not a victim. I'm just telling you, I'm dying.
I understand.
So I can't do this much longer.
This was actually something serious that he said at the end of the podcast. Everything put aside, we wish Alex Jones a long life and health and happiness.
And I want everybody to know I love my crew, but I told them I can't keep running this operation. I just want to tell the truth, and I want to get out in the next year.
I would like to sum up by saying that Alex Jones said some insane stuff. Still, the 3-hour-long podcast was interesting to listen to. Even though most of the stuff he said was baseless, still, there was a little truth into some of them.
I literally do this stuff constantly. I read
I
thousands
know
of
you
articles
do.
a day.
I know you do. If I
know-
text you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you respond right back. You're wide
Yeah.
awake.
Rogan did enjoy having him on the podcast. Spotify also made a comment by saying, "We appreciate that not all of you will agree with every piece of content on our platform. However, we do expect you to help your teams understand our role as a platform and the care that we take in making decisions." Anyways, let me know in the comments below which stuff you think was the most insane. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we will be coming up with some interesting videos. Hit the bell icon to receive notifications for all the upcoming videos. Stay tuned.